Welcome to Herbally Yours, an adventure into the world of natural medicine. Here is your host, Dr. Ellen Cowan, the natural nurse who will help you take the leap to ultimate wellness.
And greetings. Thank you so much for joining us today, right here on Herbally Yours. I'm Ellen Cowan, the natural nurse, for another edition of Herbally Yours on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Herbally Yours brings you the latest information about the many facets in the world of natural living. Today, I am so pleased to have as our guest Dr. Dana Cowan. She's a medical doctor, integrative medicine specialist, and author of Quench, and we'll be talking about her book today. Dr. Cohen is a nationally renowned internal and integrative medicine specialist whose multi-disciplinary approach has helped thousands of patients using a variety of both conventional and complementary therapies. In practice for nearly 2 decades, Dr. Cohen trained under the late Dr. Robert Atkins, author of The New Revolution, and Dr. Hoffman, a pioneer of integrative medicine and founder of the Hoffman Center in New York City. Dr. Cohen was certified by the American Board of Internal Medicine and also appointed to the Board of Directors of the American College for the Advancement of Medicine. She earned her medical degree from St. George University and also studied for many years. She also has radio on-air experience herself on such stations as WOR. Today we'll discuss her new book, Quench, Beat Fatigue, Drop Weight, and Heal Your Body through the new science of Optimum hydration. So thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Cohen.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to share a little background with you. I worked with Dr. Hoffman and Dr. Atkins because I was Dr. Serafina Corsello's head nurse for 20 years.
Oh, my goodness. You know,
you must have known Dr. Corsello because she was one of the people who started ACAM.
I know. I knew her very well.
Right, and she was, my friend as well as my boss. I worked for her, as I said, for 20 years. I spent most of my time in her Huntington Center because she had a very large center in Huntington. And then she dragged me to New York now and then. But I also co-hosted her radio show and filled in for her when she was absent. So I'm sure we know many of the same people.
It is a very incestuous field we work in.
This is true, because not that many doctors do integrative medicine. So I know your original training, I'm sure, was conventional. So what led you down the path of being interested in more natural therapies?
Yeah, so I was finishing up. I had about 6 months left in residency in internal medicine. I was at Albany Med, and the truth is at that point I was over $200,000 in debt and couldn't turn back. I was not happy and wasn't sure what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. And I saw an ad in the New York Times for a world-renowned wellness center in New York City is looking for a doctor. And I'm thinking, oh, my God, this is a spa. I'm going to go work at a spa. And I called it, and it happened to be for Dr. Atkins. And I was like, that's interesting. I was on the diet for the first time. I felt amazing. And I was like, wow, I'm going to go see what this is about. And I met him, I talked to him, and I got the job and took the job right out of residency. And he changed my life. He changed the way I thought about medicine. I fought him initially on everything. I was like, what is this vitamin C you're doing? Everything. And he would laugh at me. He's like, go downstairs and go talk to those people who are getting the IV drips. And I'd go downstairs and story after story. This one was diagnosed with metastatic colon cancer, given 6 months to live 10 years ago. And I kept hearing that story over and over again. I was like, oh, my God, he's on to something. And he taught me integrative medicine, and I thank God for him because I never looked back.
Isn't it amazing how many of the premises that Dr. Atkins promoted in those days actually now is totally supported by evidence? Scientific studies have shown that he actually was very right.
Yeah, I mean, he was brilliant. And I have to tell you, the most fearless human being I've ever met. I wish I had 1% of the fearlessness that he had. I wish it on everybody, because it was incredible to see. He fought the AMA, and he was a remarkable person, really a remarkable human being, and brilliant. He was very, very smart. Yeah.
That's a wonderful sharing, and thank you so much. So you basically were trained in conventional medicine, you believed in conventional medicine, and then you, through happenstance, got a job at an integrative medical center and then got one over. I have to say that's an unusual story that
Yeah,
I haven't heard.
Exactly. Usually it's the doctor who gets sick and nobody's helping them, and God forbid, a child of theirs gets sick and nobody's helping them. It's usually some big jarring incident on a regular, Western medicine trained doctor that changes them. I jumped right in.
Well, I'm so happy. So now, where is your practice now?
So I'm at 30 East 60th Street in New York City. I just joined a group. I had my own practice for many, many years, and I do have to say the business side of medicine is not my forte. So I joined a group about almost 2 years ago. It's called Complete Wellness, and we have acupuncture and chiropractors and yoga and physical therapy and health coaches, and I'm in a group, and I'm so much happier. It's really wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Cohen.
Thank
well,
you.
Let's move on to your book, because I think it's a very innovative cover. It's called Quench. 8 glasses a day is not the way. That's a surprise. Mm-hmm. Quench. Beat fatigue, drop weight, and heal your body through the new science of Optimum hydration. Dr. Dana Cowan, MD, with Gina Bria. What does all that mean? Those are like confusing messages.
Yeah, so I'm going to just get right into it and tell you the gist of the book is that recently there's been a new phase of water that's been identified. So we always known that water's exists as liquid, ice, and vapor. We now know that there's another phase of water. And the one that we really talk about in the book is this gel phase or structured water. And basically it has to do with the way that those simple water molecules lay upon each other or structure, how they form together. And because of that structuring, they share electrons and they create this structured or gel water. My co-author is a cultural anthropologist, and she studied how desert people hydrate. And they don't hydrate by drinking ever more water. They hydrate by eating their water. And so it happens to be that this gel water is the type of water that's found in our cells. It also is the type of water that's found in nature and in plants. So, the essence and the gist of the book is to eat your water, and the best way to do that is by making smoothies where you're blending or masticating vegetables with a little bit of fruit, if you like, to get and water to get optimal nutrition. It's more effective at hydrating you, so that the fiber and this gel water is just more effective at getting that water intracellularly, rather than just drinking more and more water, where you end up peeing it out. You end up peeing out your electrolytes. We do still need water. I'm not saying never to drink water, but a more effective way of doing it is by eating your water.
Well, I want to remind our listeners that you are listening to Herbally Yours on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse, and my guest today is Dr. Dana Cowan, MD, and she is the author of Quench, Beat Fatigue, Drop Weight, and Heal Your Body through the new science of optimum hydration, and we're so happy to have her on board with us today. So tell us again, what do you mean by gel water?
So gel water is the water that's found in nature and it's found in our bodies. So it's a new phase of water. So that's mind blowing in and of itself. By the way, we started writing this book about 3 years ago. When I started to dive into this research, I was blown away at how little we know about this simple molecule H2O. But as it turns out, it is the gel water is just a different phase. It's what happens to the water when they structure upon each other, when it's given some fiber and it's given sunlight actually plays a role here. It helps to structure water. And it's that type of water that's found in our cells and in nature in plants. And I'd love to talk about, certain foods, but, and the best way to get this in. But before we do, so I just want to say there's three aspects of the book that are really sort of mind-blowing. And the first is this discovery of this new phase of water, which we just talked about. The second
Now, wait a minute. It's not really a new phase. It's just a new discovery. Obviously, if it's in plants, the water has been around.
Exactly.
Forever.
So it's the discovery of a fourth phase of water. And it's based on the work of a very well-respected water researcher, Dr. Gerald Pollack out of Seattle. If people are interested, we lay out a lot of science in the book. However, it's very readable. It's easy to read. It's written for lay people. It's not written for other doctors. So very interesting science behind the gel water. So eating your water. And then this discovery of this new phase of water. But the other thing that we talk about in the book, and I'd like to talk about this first, is this idea that we are all sort of low-grade, chronically dehydrated, or subclinically dehydrated, meaning there's no way to measure it. But there are ways to tell and I honestly think that most people, probably 75% of the people, have this low-grade chronic dehydration. And how do we know? What are some of the things that can clue us into that? And the first thing is fatigue. We all think that if you're thirsty, that's your first sign that that you have this dehydration. The truth is, if you're thirsty, it's a little too late. Like you're dehydrated. Like, you need to do better. But that afternoon fatigue or brain fog, to me, I think that's an even earlier sign that you have this dehydration. And I like to tell people, instead of reaching for sugar, thinking that your blood sugar is dropping, try hydrating better first, and I think you'll notice a big difference. So fatigue, brain fog are some signs. We talk about, people know constipation is another one. If you're constipated, it may be because you're dehydrated. Headaches are another one. Dry skin. Headaches also, I think, is an earlier sign. Dry skin, I think, a little. You're overtly dehydrated. You need to do better. So
the thing is, many of these symptoms that you're listing could be due to not having enough water, but they could be due to other things as well. So there's a lot of sort of compounding reasons that this might happen. But certainly, looking at hydration is a great place to start.
First line therapy, absolutely. Before you go on to any diet, whatever you choose, whether it's a vegan option or an Atkins or a keto, whatever it may be, I think getting properly hydrated and knowing what that feels like is absolutely your first step. And then I just want to talk about some chronic illnesses. Like this low-grade dehydration could be a risk factor for chronic disease. And even things, and we lay out some very compelling research in the book for certain cancers like bladder and colon cancer. This everyday, day in, day out dehydration can put you at risk for fibromyalgia, joint pain, but even type 2 diabetes and even Alzheimer's. So to hope, this is first line in preventing and treating chronic illness is just getting better hydrated.
Well, that is great information, and stand by because we're going to take a little break right here and remind listeners that you are listening to Herbally Yours on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Listen live online at nccradio.org or on iHeartRadio, where we reach many, many people that way. For more information on today's guest or topic, send us an email at whpc@ncc.edu. Stay tuned. Herbally Yours will be right back.
Of course my kid's in the right car seat. Well, I think he is.